Hello everyone, and welcome to this video where I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to give an honest opinion, an honest review about Stormworks. So maybe you are an expert in the game and maybe you're debating on whether you want to buy it or not. Regardless, this will be interesting to you because I'm going to go through everything from the game to the DLCs, the workflow, the time it's going to take to learn how to build things, all that good stuff. So let's begin. Now maybe you've seen the trailers, maybe you've seen some videos about this game, maybe you've even played it, maybe at your house, maybe at a friend's house, and if you don't know much about it, you'll see all these crazy systems. You have a workbench where you'll see all this logic and all this type of information that gets passed on through various nodes in the game, and it might be overwhelming, but let's just back up to the very beginning. So here is the homepage for Stormworks Build and Rescue, and you can see there's going to be a video right away that shows you a snowcat, it shows you a boat, a plane, maybe a helicopter, all kinds of stuff. You can go through the photos and you will see that now there's even trains, there's helicopters, we're on a boat, there's cars, there's cargo planes, there's all kinds of stuff. So you will be possibly questioning, what is this game? Is it something like Minecraft? Is it something like the Lego game? Well, we're going to talk about it. So back to the beginning, what Stormworks is. It was a game that was released in September of 2020, and since then the developers have been actively working in creating content, all kinds of updates, which we're going to get into in a second here. But before you even get into that, you can see the base game itself, and here is the Canadian price on sale, $20, full price Canadian $32. I'm in Canada, obviously, if you don't tell, and it's telling us there are 3 DLCs. So before we get into the DLCs, the base game. What do we expect coming from the base game? Well, quite simple, or not. It's a game where you design, create, and build your own vehicles. Now here it says pilot your own air rescue service, which is clearly quite outdated because not only do we pilot a air rescue service, you can go underwater, you can go above water, all that stuff I talked about. So in essence, the vehicles you can create are boats, planes, helicopters, submarines, cars, trucks, trains, and even spaceships with the update or the DLC, which we're going to get into later. But there's a wide, vast variety of things, including buildings that you could build. So you have a variety of game modes, creative, survival, and you have this like other types of career modes. You create your vehicle, you can navigate, you pilot it, you design everything about it. Now you can use pre-made creations from the workshop as well, and that is definitely a nice thing if you are new to the game. But here we are visiting the workshop, and currently these are the creations that are on the home page. You can go into one of them and you can see it's a frigate with all kinds of crazy things, including a rib off the side and so on and so forth. So you can subscribe to one of these creations, as I've subscribed here to this UTV, and you can have access to it in your game. Alternatively, you could build things too, but that may take a little bit of time. When the game loads for the first time, this is what you're going to see. You can go ahead and create a new game. There are tons of different world seeds, which pretty much places your islands in different locations, so you can have a different experience each time. And here's a career, classic, and custom. Now career mode, expand your Coast Guard empire, complete missions with survival style settings. Classic, you even have to research everything, and custom is pretty much a sandbox mode. Now I do have all 3 DLCs, and here then you can select add-ons. There's official add-ons, including AI, including creatures, which can be fun. You can get all kinds of sea monsters and things. You can have natural disasters. There's even oil surveying. There's drilling and mining and stuff like that. So it sounds like there's a wide variety of different things, and there is. So keep in mind, Now in custom mode, we spawn in and whatever, we can see there's a wide variety of different spawn points, but even that doesn't necessarily matter. The point is just to get in the game. You make your little character and you spawn in the game. Now you use WASD to move around, space to jump, you can crouch, you can even go to third person when you are playing in this type of mode, custom mode, and you have this option to change your weather, your time, all that stuff. So if you are trying just to build things, I suggest doing this. Now if you go to your map, you can see that you have to kind of explore locations, but in here you can also unlock it, reveal it, and now you'll see the full extent of the map. So we do have this main island, we have this one as part of one of the updates or DLCs, and we have Arctic, which comes with the base game. Now we do also get the moon if you have the DLC for that. Back to here, you'll want to go to these little workbenches, and that's where you can spawn vehicles. So you can't spawn a vehicle anywhere. You got to go to this bench, press E, and here is kind of your place where you can add blocks. And I'm sure even the beginners can see that you can kind of just drag and drop and click and paint. But there are tons of inventory items, including engines and cameras and all sorts of things that you can build. Now, say you don't want to build, say you've just started the game and you just rather explore, well, you can go to load, and if you go to the presets, Stormworks provides us with some creations here that we can sort of use and learn the ropes of the game. So here is a tractor. You can go ahead and spawn that. Sorry, you spawn it by clicking the spawn button. Now, I'm not going into detail of what all the settings here do. That is in a different video, but just to give you a basic idea, you spawn your creation, it'll flop into the game, and then you can drive it around. So in this case, we want to press 1, it starts this, or you could hold E on the key, and then you should be able to drive this around. Now, it is a tractor, this one's very slow. You can make your own creations that can be faster potentially, but that is one of the preset vehicles. Now, it's going to be stuck in your world unless you despawn it. Now here it goes off to the side. If I press B on it, it jumps into the workshop, and so on and so forth. Now they do give us a nice rescue boat, which I do recommend starting to complete the rescue missions in, but you won't want to spawn the boat here because it's going to drop into the middle of your hangar. So instead of that, you'll exit the editor, it'll refund any money, and then you can run over to that one there. As you can see, this one kind of backs onto this bay or dock, and if you spawn it here, it'll drop into the water, and there you have it. Now you can press F, turn on the engines, and kind of use this pre-made boat for any of the missions that may come about here. Now, I said missions, and of course, being called Stormworks, you could expect the missions are Coast Guard related. That's what this here alludes to. And if we go down to this, you can see that there's environments, there's things, and you can have your own rescue helicopters, boats, submersibles. So the rescue is only a portion of the game now. It is no longer the whole game. Maybe it used to be when it first started in 2020, but since then it expanded to many more things. That said, the rescue portion is probably where I would start if I was starting the game. And I did do that actually when I started. So it does give you more things to do. Now, what you'll want to look at is the DLCs. Now, the DLCs may not be for everybody, not all of them at least, but I do recommend, or strongly recommend, the Industrial Frontier. That was the first, I believe, of the DLCs. No, sorry, Search and Destroy was. But the Industrial Frontier is the one I recommend for the reason that it gives you that massive island that I showed you that it had at the very bottom, the very southmost island, that had kind of the sandy area. Now, what this one does is pretty much unlocks industry. It gives you this massive island that comes with mining and it is a massive, massive island, 400 square kilometers. You have new rail, you have mining and processing, wildlife and farms. So you get that in this update, as well as that massive land. So you can see here the drills, mining, and all that good stuff. I love this one. It gives us oil, and you can use that. Now, that is the one update that I strongly recommend. Now, granted, there are the other two. Search and Destroy is for those who want more of a military feeling in the game. Here you can create war machines, tanks, helicopters with missiles, all kinds of stuff. This one is awesome for people that want that. I don't find myself using a lot of the war aspects of the game, especially I disable the AI, the war AI personally. But that said, it still gives us weapons. It gives us a bunch of new parts and handheld weapons as well. So you can conduct missions that involve an enemy pretty much with this update. And the last one is space. This is the newest one, and this actually changed the dynamics of the gas in the game. Now it's all settled, but at the time of release, there was a little bit of hiccups, kind of getting to that point, because it pretty much changed the way the game worked altogether. But even still, here you have it. You get the various components for space equipment, and you get some space missions, or rather a lot of space missions, but you do have to get up onto the space. You can't just spawn there, especially if you are doing it in career mode. Now, I probably lost a few people in the back dozing off, but we're going to continue. Now, when you master the game and you build your own creations, you can end up with an array of different things that you can use and vehicles that are at your disposal. Alternatively, you can subscribe to all kinds of incredible creations here in the game and utilize them. Now, one thing that I didn't cover in my talk of the DLCs, because it wasn't a DLC, is the fishing update. So you see here that a fishing net will actually spawn between these points, and that fishing net can be used to fish. So if you don't want to do mining missions, if you don't want to drill for oil, if you don't want to do rescue missions or go to space or do any of the other things, you can also fish. Now you can fish with a fishing rod, which is right here, or you can do commercial fishing with the nets. And most recently, we actually got lobster pots, and you can even trap lobsters. So it added a whole new aspect to the game, and now you can do that as well. Now, the developers launch updates all the time, and there's even some new DLCs coming, I believe, at least one. So they are putting a large effort into making it quite awesome of a game, and I am biased, obviously, because I really do like this game. But that said, I think it's just fantastic. It has a lot of redeeming qualities and life lessons that you could learn, programming you could learn, and you could pretty much do with it what you want. Like I said, you want to make cars, you can make cars. You want to go fishing, you can go fishing. Now, one of the really cool things about this game is the atmosphere. I love how this game looks when it comes to kind of these sunsets. It's quite romantic, it's quite atmospheric, and it looks beautiful. Now, yes, it is low poly, but it doesn't even matter, because a lot of times it's your own vehicle or a vehicle that you just enjoy, and you can find yourself in these really sweet sort of situations where you are, just about. Now, also, that said, it can get quite nasty. If you want to see nasty, well, take a look at this. And in this case, this is not the best vehicle for it, and we'd quite easily capsize. The wind is just way too high, and we're in a tiny little fishing boat. The weather is dynamic, so if you find yourself kind of stuck in a situation like this, you are going to be in trouble. Now, yes, you could turn on all these spotlights and lights and things to make it a little easier on yourself to kind of navigate in terrible conditions, but obviously a larger boat would help me right now. And as you can see, larger boat obviously handles much better in larger waves. And just take a look at how atmospheric. Now I do have the fog all the way up here, but if I turn it down just a little bit, you can see that your lights aren't quite going crazy on you, and now you can do all kinds of stuff in your creation, make pizza, or find yourself into a cabin where you can find yourself asleep to sort of pass the day and come up into a time when you are past the storm or whatever. So it gives you also missions here. Like I said, now in this case it tells us that there is an emergency call from a Coast Guard and that we have to go and respond. So then you could look on the map here, see that there's extreme weather there, and maybe we find ourselves this mission here, and etc, etc. So there are a lot of happenings on around here. Here you go. One civilian needs evacuating from a natural disaster. So that's the mission you do. Now, a common criticism of the game is that there aren't enough missions, or that the missions, you know, the AI is kind of dumb and stuff like that. But, you know, while the AI may not be the brightest, you kind of have to guide them around. I think that they serve their purpose, because end of the day, it's kind of a sandbox style game where you are trying to solve a problem. The problem being mining for oil, mining for coal, rescuing people, going to space. So you have yourself set problems that you can try to do, or you can just explore the underwater world. They have wrecks in certain places of the map that you could find yourself, and at those wrecks you can take diving bells or submersibles and go down. Now you can just see how beautiful this world looks. I just find it stunning, and I quite enjoy it. Now you can build secondary vehicles and additional vehicles and all kinds of stuff, but in essence you can find yourself in quite intense situations with the missions, or you can find yourself just kind of steaming along as we're doing now and trying to kind of get ourselves to a certain location. Now, yes, there's programming. Yes, you can program all these displays and have all kinds of stuff going about your systems, but that said, you can also find some of these systems and don't have to do the programming yourself. So it can get as intense or as simple as you want without needing to really go crazy trying to understand all the various coding and things behind the scenes. Now that we're past the missions, well, a question I often get is workflow. What is your workflow? What is the learning curve to do this? All that type of stuff. Now, first, before I get into that, I will mention useful creations. Obviously, you'll want a boat. Now, you can have a very simple boat, as my first boat was, where you just pretty much go and rescue people. This is the first boat I made. It has some logic. Kind of looks overwhelming when you see it like this, but really it just has a lot of huge buttons in the display cockpit here, which now I don't have kind of ugly systems like this, but back then I was quite proud of them. So you'll want a boat for starters, or a vehicle or something to kind of complete your missions, and you can use the preset ones like I said earlier, downloaded ones from the workshop, or try to build your own. There's a bunch of tutorials, bunch of videos how to build your own creation, so that is, you can get to that point quite easily. Mastering it, however, does take some time. So I will say I was building stuff that was, I had massive big ambitions, including this massive warship with a way too shallow of a hull, and then later I built my very first kind of successful boat here that actually served me very, very well on my missions. And I'd say it took a couple months to get to this point. 1 month of purely playing the game, and then a couple months where I could comfortably build this. And at this point, you're quite set to take it on missions, and at that point you can take the game as far as you want and start coding and start building very intense crazy vehicles and helicopters and stuff, or you can take it easy and just do the missions as they are. But you could see here I've actually had a work in progress version of this vessel where I wanted to kind of merge in some items from other builds. So you can learn it. You can learn the bodies that probably you're quite confused, but there's physics bodies, there's the nodes, there's all this type of information here that you can gather, and then there are microcontrollers. Microcontrollers are like little programs, and they have these information nodes and the coding themselves. Now, it is quite easy to get to the basic level and quite difficult to get to an advanced level, but it's possible. For that, I'd probably say you want over a year of experience to get to an advanced level. If you want to start coding and doing Lua, I'd say you have to have some coding background. So it's definitely not easy, but you can get there with time and with persistence. And yes, it is a game, but remember how I said earlier that you also learn some life skills? Well, there you have it. You can learn coding from this if you are persistent and insistent on figuring things out. So, typical workflow from building something start to beginning. I mean, I'd say obviously a smaller creation like this can take you a day or two, from a couple hours, depending on how detailed you want to get, to a very large ship like the one I just showed you could take, 2-3 months, to something like this could take maybe a week or two, depending on if you know what you're doing. But your workflow will consist of the basic building blocks with the symmetry mode, and once you kind of have your form work set and you start developing your hull or whatever it is you're trying to do, you go on to the next bit, which is creating your working engine or power plant. So you could have an electric engine, you could have a nuclear powered engine, you could have coal powered engine. So they do give you a variety of different things, including the small engines, or pre-made engines is what they're called. The game previously used to only have these, and now we actually have modular engines that use crankshafts, cylinders, and this type of thing, including different sizes. So you can have the small cylinder, a bit larger cylinder, or the 5x5 massive cylinder. So you can then learn all about making an engine. You could learn about cars. So it does give you that freedom, and nothing says you have to know it all from the beginning. You can start small, start with the pre-made engine, and go from there. So you'd want to go into building your frame, to building your power plant, adding in the microcontrollers like I talked about. You'd build your own microcontrollers that you can then input into your own vehicle. So you can see here I have a microcontroller. This one's actually on the workshop. And then you could attach the nodes to the various things here, such as, well, this is for a car, left wheel, right wheel, but you could have the throttle, which would be, in the case of this is a modular engine, so not the right microcontroller, but you get the point. This is what you'd put in, and then you'd go to the testing phase, and that would take some time to kind of perfect and make it work properly. Now, I will show you this boat. This is probably a 60% done. No microcontrollers. Probably 40% done. So all it is a pretty picture that I painted inside, purely empty. None of the things are plugged in, and I have to start plugging things in. Now at the bottom you'll see that I've kept it empty because I'm going to start migrating over the microcontrollers from here, and that's actually quite easy to do. So what I tend to do is, if I know I want the exact same systems, for example, this brand of vessel is going to be the same as this brand of vessel, so then I could quite literally take these inventory blocks and drag them into this ship somewhere, maybe up on the ceiling. Now you'd want to learn the shortcuts of the game as I'm kind of moving it around by kind of just pressing keystrokes, but this is what you do if you want to recycle a previous design into just a new format. So all my cars and trucks, kind of, I did the same thing. Larger boats, you will want to make eventually a massive ship template where you can extract the microcontrollers, the control panel, the engine, the pumps, information systems, and all that good stuff. So you can get to that point, but this takes, I'd say, over a year and a half to assemble enough information and microcontrollers, learn the systems you like, and then start to implement them in a vessel or creation. So that concludes the review. Do I recommend the game? Yes, I do, if you have a certain mindset. If you are the type of person who prefers first-person shooter or fantasy games or roleplay or something, this may not be the game for you. If you are someone who wants to take the time to learn how to build systems, make something that you're proud of, something tangible that you could use, and if you're someone who has kind of a knack for that type of thing, I would say this game is a must. I did give this game, or buy this game, to one of my gamer friends who loves first-person shooters and Call of Duty and stuff, and this was not up their alley. But that, likewise, I also gave this game to my brother, who is similar to me, and he loved it. And him and I play on multiplayer and do testing and stuff like that. So it really does depend on what you are looking for. But overall, as a game, I would recommend it. The developers are putting in hard effort. You can learn tons of life lessons, and you can be entertained probably perpetually as you explore the various things that you build in each one of your systems. Like, just take a look at this. So here I am creating, using my crane that I've developed, and it can move the stuff around. Just a simple system, but so pleasing to operate. And in the case of this vessel, I'm quite proud of it, just how it overall turned out and looks and functions. There's even a little vehicle down there, like almost like a car that can be used to put the containers on the ship. All kinds of stuff. So you really do have the freedom and flexibility to do as you want. There are no safety nets. If you miss a connection or a node, you're not going to be told by the game what you did wrong. You better find it. So you better have some good problem solving skills and patience. But overall, for the people that like that, I highly recommend this game. For people that want a nice atmosphere, some creations to test or use, maybe you don't want to build things but just kind of play with it, I'd say that this game does have a lot to offer in that front as well, just because it still is very beautiful and a very fun game to play. My rating, it doesn't really matter. I mean, personally, I'd rate it 10 out of 10 because clearly I have a lot of people interested in my videos and a lot of creations and a lot of hours beneath me, but I'm an engineer. I love this type of stuff for a living, and I love this type of stuff for fun. So I'm maybe different, but I know a lot of folks in this game that are not engineers, but are just interested in this type of stuff, or they're technical folks who have a background in mechanics or other things like that. So I do think the game is quite versatile for all kinds of things like that, and I do recommend it. I really do. I think at the price it's at, you should give it a shot. Unless you absolutely don't want to build anything and hate building, they hate the concept of building, then I would say this game is not for you. But if you have any interest in learning mechanics or doing any type of customization, I'd say it's worthwhile to give this game a shot, just because you can end up with something quite fun. So that is pretty much what I have to say about Stormworks. So there you have it. That is my honest review about Stormworks. I do think that developers are doing a good job, and I think that they do have this game's interest in their mind. Yes, there are bugs, yes, there are glitches, but most of them don't really affect your day-to-day use and building of things. There's nothing major that's stopping you from being able to build things, enjoy the beautiful world, do some missions, mine some coal, go underwater, all that good stuff. You could do that all right now, and you can succeed in it. So thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. I have more creations coming your way, so stay tuned for that. And as always, happy Stormworksing, everyone. See you next time.